That's stabilized on it.
Well, thank you everybody for coming. You guys want to play one before we start? No, just start on it. Okay. This is David Udolph on piano. Curtis Akins on bass here. Curtis is the Arco Wizard. And then we got Glenn Iwoka on drums here. So what I'm going to do is talk about some of the history of jazz singing and also some concepts about playing with the higher intervals of chords, and shows sort of the way people go about doing that. We're going to start off. People tend to think that the first scat singer was Louis Armstrong, but actually the first scat singer was a guy named Cliff Edwards, otherwise known as Ukulele Ike. His most well-known career move was he played Jiminy Cricket. And he sang "When You Wish Upon a Star" and "Give a Little Whistle." But he started scat singing before Louis Armstrong did. He made a record of "Lady Be Good." Basically, "Lady Be Good" was written in 1924 by George and Ira Gershwin for a show called "Lady Be Good." And the stars of that show were Fred and Adela Astaire, who were a brother and sister dance team, and Cliff Edwards, who stole the show, singing "Oh Lady Be Good." Later, he also stole the show singing in the Rain. So we're going to do an example of sort of like what Cliff Edwards did. What he did was he would sing in a normal voice, but when he scattered real high, falsetto. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Oh, sweet and lovely, lady be good. Oh, lady be good to me. Well, I'm just a lonesome babe in the world. So, lady be good to me. Well, I'm all alone in this big city. Yeah. Won't someone please have a little pity on me? I tell you I'm just a lonesome, misunderstood. So, lady, oh, please be good to me. Bop, bop. The first well-known version of scat, besides Cliff Edwards, a year later, was Louis Armstrong was one of the first vocals he did. It was with the band with his wife, Lil Hardin Armstrong, on piano. And the tune was called Heebie Jeebies by a guy named Boyd Atkins. It's one of those songs about a dance. And there used to be lots of songs about dances. The most famous one, of course, was the Charleston. There was the Lindy Hop, which was this dance that everybody did the swing to. And there was the Buck and Wing and all kinds of fun dances. And then along in the 50s came the Twist. And when that happened, people stopped learning dances and just got up and wiggled around. I used to live at 1090 Page Street, which is right down the street from where you live, right? Yeah. Breaking Project. And that place had a ballroom. And Peter Alvin, a big brother in the holding company, and Janis Joplin, came to me and he said, "We want to have a dance. The only records I got are Coltrane. What about you?" I said, "Well, you know, I'm writing a paper about the writings of John Lennon, so I have some Beatles records. Give me them." And he put on his Beatles records and everybody jumped up and down, and that was the first dance. And later the family dog took over that space, and the rest was history. So anyway, Louis Armstrong claimed when he sang Heebie Jeebies, he dropped the sheet music. And so he had to scat because he couldn't remember the words. However, he scats through it for a while, then he comes back to the words again. How did he do that if he dropped the sheet music? People think that probably wasn't really true, but he just wanted an excuse. So, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. In 1928, a guy named Spencer Wilson, wrote a song that was called Basin Street Blues. And it was about integration, basically. He's talking about dark and light always meet. Although now when they put the music, they say where the elite always meet. But Louis Armstrong was the first one to record this song, but for some reason he didn't sing the words to it at all. All he did was play his trumpet and scat. So we're going to do a little bit of that version for it. So that's the one that starts at letter B here. Well, trumpet. So that was the first recording of Basin Street Blues. In 1931, there was a jazz impresario named John Hammond. He was rich. And so he would go around. Basically, he was fascinated by black jazz bands. And so he would go around, sometimes putting on blackface, and going into clubs and scouting. And he discovered Count Basie that way. But before he did that, in 1931, there really wasn't much jazz going on, particularly in New York. And it turns out that his sister, Lady Duckworth, had gotten divorced, and she was well off, and she was dating a young clarinet player named Benny Goodman. And so Hammond said to Goodman, he says, look, I understand you're playing in these society orchestras, but why don't we put together a jazz date? He says, I've got a relationship with Columbia Records, and I can get you a jazz date. And Goodman said, I don't know about that. I don't want to get in trouble with all these people that I'm playing these society gigs. I'll tell you what, let's not call it Benny Goodman. Let's call it the Charleston Chasers. So Benny Goodman called up a couple of trombone players, Glenn Miller and Jack Teagarden, and he said, you guys, tomorrow we're going to do Basin Street Blues. And so Miller and Teagarden got together and they said, well, this song, you know, it's not really very substantial. Why don't we write an introduction to it? So they sat down and they wrote this introduction to it, and when they got to the date, they sang it, and it immediately became part of the song, except for the fact that it was never in the published sheet music. So if you pick up the sheet music right now, it says it was written by Spencer Williams, but everybody knows this first part of it. And of course, Glenn Miller died in the war, but Jack Teagarden played all the way into the 80s, and he was always upset that they never gave him credit for this particular song. So we're going to do it right now. We're going to start at the top. Won't you come along with me on the Mississippi? We'll take boat, land dream, steam down the river, down to New Orleans. The band's there to meet us, old friends to greet us. We're all dark, like folks meet. Heaven on earth, they call it Basin Street. Well, Basin Street is a street, dark and light, always be in New Orleans. It's the land of dreams. You never know how nice it seems, or just how much it really means. Glad to be, yes sirree, where welcome's free. Dear to me, where I can lose my Basin Street blues. Go down, go down, go down, go down, lay down. with me to the Mississippi. We took hope, the land of dreams, heaven on earth, they call it Basin Street. So Louis Armstrong finally got better known for singing when he started singing tunes that were more like pop tunes. But the thing about Louis Armstrong was he had a tendency to sing a song in a very limited vocal range, usually within an octave, because he played the trumpet really high, and he sang really high, and he, had very limited vocal range, and so consequently, if he'd take a song like the next one we're going to do, which is basically a stretch of a tenth, and he could only sing an octave, he wasn't going to be able to sing all that thing all the way up and down. So he would sing it at the very top of every note in the melody. So this song was written by Clarence Muse, and it was first given to a singer named Mildred Bailey, who was a singer with Paul Whiteman's band. She was the first woman to sing with a band. And she also was the sister of Al Rinker, who was part of the Rhythm Boys with Bing Crosby, and they all worked for Paul Whiteman's band, including Jack Teagarden and Johnny Mercer as a singer. And so she did the first recording of this song, and I'm going to sing it the way she sang it, and then I'm going to sing it the way Louis Armstrong sang it. That's Sleepy Time, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, pale moon shining on the fields below. Folks are crooning soft and low. You didn't tell me, boys, because I know it's sleepy time down south. Soft winds blowing through the pinewood trees. Folks down there live a life of ease. When old mama goes down on her knees and prays, well, it is sleepy time down south, yes. Steamboats up the river, coming, going, flashing the night away. You hear those banjos ringing, the folks are singing, and they dance till break of day. Oh, dear old Southland with its dreamy song, it take me back where I belong, right in my mommy's arms, when it's sleepy time down south. Steamboats up the river, coming, going, splashing the night away. Hear those banjos ringing, the folks are all singing, and they dance till the break of day. So, dear old Southland with its dreamy song, you take me back where I belong, right here in mommy's arms, when it's sleepy time down south. It's kind of a nice song. So when Louis Armstrong would sing this, he loved this song so much that he sang it every time he played a gig. And he would sing it through once without playing his trumpet usually, and he would use that as his opening number, and he would sing it something like this. So we're just going to go through it one time. 1, 2, see if you find that something.
Oh.
There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, the pale moon shining on the fields below. Folks are doing something low. You need to tell me, boys, 'cause I know. Sleepy time down south, bo, that's soft winds blow to the pine tree. Folks down there live life with ease. Well, mammy, she go down on her knees, yeah. You know it's sleepy time down south, yes, yes. Steamboats up the river coming going. Papa's and zats, passing the night away. Papa's around. Hear the band of singing and those folks that sing la ya 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 ya. And they dance till the break of day. Oh, dear old Southland with his dreamy song. You take me back where I belong, right in my mammy's arms. Papa sat, 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 sat. Good evening, everybody.
There's a cell phone out by a Honda Civic outside.
Oh, it could be mine.
Oh no.
On the street? You're always saying my life, how are you?
Yeah.
Who else is with me?
Right.
Cool. So with Louis Armstrong, first of all, the scat and all the Z sounds, you know, that you got that all in there. I'm just wondering about the, you know, it seems like I heard him with a gravelly, sort of lower tone. You know, I don't think of him as a high voice singer. So what am I sort of?
Well, he got more gravelly as it went along.
Is it more the 80s?
Yeah, it's just sort of dropped on down.
So when he started out, he was actually.
Yeah, he was kind of mellow
He
when he
wasn't
started
sounding
out.
that way.
Yeah. To a certain extent, he was.
He was imitating the rhythmic aspect of Louis Armstrong,
Yeah.
not literally.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of people would stick their heads out of windows to try to sound like Louis Armstrong. And I didn't want to do that. It was hard enough just trying to do Cliff Edwards. But yeah, you're right. He had a much gravelly, nasty sound all his life. Okay, so another singer came along who was very much influenced by Louis Armstrong and by Bessie Smith. And she also had a very limited range. She tended to sing again within an octave. And so the tune she would do, like the tune we're going to do here, it's a stretch of an 11th, and she could only sing an octave, so she wasn't going to do that. So she, again, sang at the top. She didn't have a gravelly voice. She had a very pure kind of voice, although very distinctive. And her rhythmic movements were very distinctive. But it was amazing. She was able to do as much as she could accomplish, given her very limited vocal range. So this one is called I Cried for You.
And you didn't say who that singer was.
Billie Holiday.
That's what I figured, but you gotta say it.
What? Billie Holiday, Lady Day. 1, 2, 3, 4. First I'm going to sing it straight ahead, and then I'll sing it like this. over me. Every road has a turning. That's one thing you're learning. I cried for you. What a fool I used to be. 'Cause I found two eyes, a little bit bluer. I found a heart just a little bit truer. I cried for you. Now it's your turn to cry over me. Well, I cried for you. What a fool I used to be. Now I found two eyes, little bit bluer. Found a heart, just a little bit bluer. Now it's your turn to cry over me. Let's do our Lady Holiday. I cried for you. Now your turn, cry for me. Every road has a turning. Well, there's just one thing you are learning. Cried for you, almost died for you. What a fool used to be. 'Cause found two eyes, little bit bluer. I found a heart, little bit truer. Cried for you, and it's your turn to cry over me. So,
What is that blue stuff?
this is Gatorade Zero sugar. No sugar. So, when I was a kid, I noticed in my parents' living room a hassock, which is kind of like a little stool, and I opened it up. And inside it was full of 78 RPM records, and I assumed that they were there because my father, for a while, had been booking bands into the ballroom in Sioux City, Iowa, where the Big Bopper and Richie Valens, they were killed flying to it, but that was a little later. Anyway, my father got to know Duke Ellington and Larry Duchin and people like that, and he had no interest in their music. He was just a businessman. But he did apparently collect these records, and one of the records, a 78 record that I fell in love with, was by Cab Calloway, who was not a limited vocal range. He had a 2.5 octave range and was a wonderful singer and was incredibly popular and had wonderful bands. And he did this song that was written for him, and I just fell so in love with this song that I got together with a friend of mine, and we got in front of an assembly in my high school and lip-synced this record. The only problem was, it was a 78 record, and we couldn't really understand the words very well. And my father said, you know, that lyric's kind of rough. I said, well, I don't understand that. There was one line in there where he says, "You messed around with a bloke named Smokey, she loved him." And I thought it meant he was okie dokie. But no, he was cokey. And the next line was something about, I don't know, I couldn't understand it all, I just made something up. But what it was he took her down to Chinatown and he showed her how to kick the gong around, which meant smoke opium. So it was a very drug-related song. And this song has a call and response pattern to it. Heidi, Heidi, ho, Heidi, Heidi, ho. So when I sing that, I would appreciate it if you would sing it back to me. We're going to go through it 4 times with Heidi Ho's and Holy Night. The first recording of this in 1933 was banned for 50 years because one of the Heidi Ho's he sang was oi, 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 oi. So don't let me forget to sing that in there because that's an important part of it. Oi, 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 oi. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Whoa! Wow! Folks, here's the story. Minnie the Moocher. She was a red-hot hoochie sharp. She was the roughest, toughest frail. Minnie had a heart big as a whale. Heidi, 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 Heidi. Heidi, 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 Heidi. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hee, 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 hee. Whoa, 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 whoa. She messed around with a bloke named Smokey. She loved him, though he was cokey. He took her down, Chinatown, showed her how to kick the gong around. Oi, 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 She had a dream about the King of Sweden. He gave her things that he was needing. Gave her a house built of gold and steel, platinum car with the diamond wheel. Rap, bow, rap, bow. Bop, beep, bop, bop, beep, bop, bow. He gave her his townhouse, racing horses. Each meal she ate was a dozen courses. Had $1 million with the nickels and dimes. Sat around and counted them all 1,000,000 times. Rip, bip, 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 we Okay, so when Charlie Parker came along, it took him a while to get it together. And there's a famous story about how Charlie Parker went to a jam session and he was playing the wrong changes to a tune called Cherokee. And so he was sitting in with Count Basie's band, and Count Basie's drummer named Joe Jones came over and had a cymbal, and he threw the cymbal at Charlie Parker's feet. And Charlie Parker was so humiliated that he got up and he left. And this was the most humiliating thing that ever happened to Charlie Parker. However, I had a friend named Bill McGinnis, who was a trad drummer, and he told me that he once ran into Papa Joe Jones. And Papa Joe Jones said, you know, I don't understand where everybody gets this idea. I threw the cymbal at him because I love this playing. I don't know why he got so upset when he left. The thing is, there's a term called JAMF, jive, and Bill was kind of a jive, so that may or may not be true what he told me, I don't know. Anyway, the first time this song called Cherokee was recorded was right after it was written in 1939, and it was recorded by a band leader named Charlie Barnett, who was a rich guy who, when he wasn't leading his band, he was going marlin fishing, but he was well known for not paying his musicians hardly anything. By the way, do we need more chairs? There's more chairs in the back.
We'll see.
We've got a few up here.
Yeah, I think there's.
Some in the front. So I'm going to do a short version of Cherokee the way Charlie Barnett did it without the lyric. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Wah ba 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 ba, wah do ba, wah. This is a tenor saxophone I'm doing. Wah ba 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 do ba do ba 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 ba. Ba ba da da ba da da ba 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 ba. Ba ba da do ba. Ba ba da ba do be da, do ba da ba do be da, da ba dee ba ba do ba ba. Oh ba 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 ba. Way ba da ba 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 oh ba ba ba. Way ba go ba ba go ba go. Oh ba da ba do be da, oh ba da ba do be da. Wa ba ba do da do da. Da ba da da ba 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 ba. And that it was strange that he kept playing reveille through this because it was 1939. He didn't maybe anticipate the fact that in 1942 all of his band members would be drafted and he wouldn't be able to do it anymore. That was the way that went. So I'd like to sing the song now with the lyric so you know exactly what it's supposed to be that Charlie Parker's going to be playing on. But the thing about it was Charlie Parker was jamming in a chili house with a guitar player named Biddy Fleet. And Biddy Fleet started playing the upper notes of the chords, playing 13th chords, 11th chords. And Charlie Parker heard that, and he came alive, and that was what he'd been hearing in his head, but nobody else was playing it. So he started playing it, these upper notes. But first I'm going to sing the song the way it goes, and then we're going to do it real fast like Charlie Parker did it. One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4. My name since first I met you, I can't forget you, Cherokee sweetheart. I love the rain, my love is calling, my heart is falling, my Cherokee. Dreams of summertime, summertime, my fire. On my memory with melodies entwined. My Indian maiden, someday I'll hold you in my arms and hold you, my Cherokee. Little the way Charlie Parker recorded that song, he and Dizzy Gillespie got together and they made a record the first record under Charlie Parker's name, and they called Cherokee, and they started playing it, and the A&R man stopped him and said, "You ain't gonna play Cherokee on my record date, because I ain't got no BMI license." BMI and ASCAP are two companies that pay songwriters, and a venue has to pay for this kind of music to be played in there, so they collect a fee from the venue and they just disperse it among various people who had their stuff performed. And so what happened was there was a recording ban from 1942 to 1944, and a lot of companies couldn't record, so a lot of small companies started up and recorded anyway, but they didn't have any money, and so they couldn't pay the BMI fee. So Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie had to write something they call a contrafact, which is a little melodic thing they did based on the changes, because when a song is written, the melody can be copyrighted, the lyric can be copyrighted, but the chord changes can't be copyrighted. So you can write a song based on a song that everybody knows, but write a different melody to it. And that way, you get the publishing credit for it, and you don't have to pay BMI. So the most famous song that had these, what they're called contrafacts written to it, is a song written by the Gershwin brothers, and it's called I Got Rhythm. This song is so famous that if you go to a jam session and you want to play something and you don't really know what tune you want to play, you just say rhythm changes. And everybody plays the changes to I Got Rhythm, because everybody knows that. So I'm going to do I Got Rhythm, and then I'm also going to do a scat by a very strange guy named Leo Watson. same kind of bizarre. So first I'll sing the head, and then I'll do a little scat, and we'll take it out. By the way, this song is interesting because it goes up, and then it comes down. And it goes up, and it comes down. And the chord changes stay the same pretty much for the first 8 bars, all the way across the top. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. I got rhythm. Yeah. I got rhythm. I got music. I got my gal who can ask for anything more. I got Daisy in green pasture. I got my gal who can ask for anything more. Old man trouble, I don't mind him. You won't find him around my door. I got starlight, I got sweet dreams. I got my gal, ask for anything more. Ask for anything more. better get busy or bust. Lunch or dinner, you're a sinner. Please get thinner, lose that weight or bust. That's a dummy lyric. Oh, but get up. I don't mind it. You won't find it on my front or back door. Bop, 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 boop. Shalilia, bop, 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 bop. Ba-da, 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 wop. So, lots of contrafacts were written in this song. For instance, Miles Davis wrote a song called Dig. Dizzy Gillespie wrote a couple, and one of the more famous ones was a situation where Dizzy Gillespie called up Sonny Rollins and Sonny Stitt to do a record date he was going to do called Sunny Side Up. And after he called the guys, Sonny Rollins called Sonny Stitt, and he said, Dizzy just called me up, and he said that at the gig tomorrow, I'm going to cut you. And he said, no, he's called me and he said the same thing. He said, I was going to cut you. I'll tell you what, I'm going to write a song, said Stitt, that Dizzy can't play. And so he wrote this song. It was all over the place. And it took Dizzy 2 hours of rehearsal time before he could play it. So he was embarrassed. So we're going to do one of the contrafacts that was written to this by Thelonious Monk with a lyric by John Hendricks. It's called Rhythm a Ning. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Bop, bop, bop. Some folks dance, others sing, others find a way to swing. Thelonious can do that. Listen to this cat, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a dance your feet will prove. You can make your body move. Thelonious can do that. Listen to this cat, wow, wow, wow. You don't need to know how. Just be like a loose goose. Want me to show how the music can turn your body loose. Some cats swing and others don't. Don't you be the kind that won't. Thelonious can do that. Listen to this cat. Wop, wop, wop. Some folks sing, others dance, and some find some way to swing. Thelonious can do that. Listen to this cat, yeah, yeah. It's a song your feet will move. You can make your body groove. Thelonious can do that. Listen to this cat. You don't need to know how. Just be like a loose goose, yeah. Want me to show how music can make your body loose. Some folks sing and others don't. Don't you be the kind that won't. Thelonious can do that. Ba, ba, ba. part of the program. So we'll be back in about 15 minutes or so. And I want to introduce the band. We've got David Udolph. Got Curtis Akins on bass. Randy Awoka on the drums down there. So we'll see you in a few minutes now.
Loren, are
Yeah.
you going to point out your art to folks? Some people might not know which is your art.
Yeah, that's what the intermission is for. So the art here on the wall, the only art in the wall isn't mine, is that orange thing over there, and these macrames. But those two pictures back there and all the pictures along that wall are the stuff that I did.
What about over there?
And that in the window
Yeah.
is my plastic sculpture. If you saw the poster that is on the wall here, it shows an image of that particular piece of sculpture, except for the fact that time has taken its toll on this piece of sculpture. The picture that was in my particular poster that I gave out, it was a photograph that I took of this plastic sculpture as soon as I made it. And then I put it in the show in a window, and it faded. And then I put it in my basement, and I pulled it out this week, and that's now what it looks like. Which really has no resemblance to its original. And the way that it was created was, I took a little container that shape, and I put plastic in it, and I put catalyst in it, and I put paint in it. And the catalyst and the paint fought with each other and came up with the shapes. Now those pictures behind you there, I painted on 8mm film. And so you can see the sprocket holes. And what I would do is I would take film that had some kind of image on it, and I would bleach the image a little bit. And then I would make a palette with bleach and other kinds of strange chemicals, and oil paint and water-based paint. And when oil paint and water-based paint get together, it's like an oil slick you see on the ground when it rains, and all these colors are created. So all these shapes here were created with spontaneously. And the two big purple ones there in the middle, that's something called Dr. Brown's watercolor paint with some stuff called crystal craze. And crystal craze drew those crystalline shapes right there on the film. So all of that's all one brush stroke down a piece of 8mm film. So those two pieces actually are connected up with each other. And then the other pieces there are all various variations on using these colored palettes I would create, and then I would dip the film or I would paint the film with a paintbrush and let it fester, and there they be.
All right.